Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blenderhead. You can follow me there on Twitter. And this is the show where we're back. We're back. We're going to talk about NFL today, I guess, right? Did you miss me? I was gone for 3 days. Did you miss me? I could honestly say I did not miss you. I did not miss you people. I didn't. I see you guys on the YouTube chat. Give me those thumbs ups, right? Make up for the past 3 days of no thummy thumbs. And give me some more thummy thumbs and subscribe-y scribes and notification bells or whatever. Click around, right? But I didn't miss you. I didn't miss you. I really didn't. It was nice not to wake up that early in the morning, so I can answer questions in the YouTube chat. I probably answered 734 times before. But but I'm back. It's Casual Friday, so we'll take things casually today. I mean, I've just started to look at the NFL slate, right? I didn't look at anything DFS for the past 3 days, so like. I don't even have my MMA sheets up. So, like, if you can ask me about tomorrow's MMA card, no idea, right? I'm going to do that after the show. Set up all the betting odds and everything and see what the hell's going on with that. NBA, I have no idea what happened yesterday. Apparently, I think all the Raptors won. I think if you played all the Raptors, you won last night, I think. I think that's what I saw on Twitter. But I don't know what's going on tonight in NBA. I'll have to take a look at that also. But we were running some stuff for NFL primarily today. So as always, you could always ask your DFS strategy questions, anything you want to talk about in the YouTube chat. But let me before I go into that, let me run some stuff here because I'm looking at the NFL stuff now. So obviously Friday we're a little bit more clear with the news situations. We still got some Q tags up here, but Nick Chubb doesn't look like he's going to be playing, which opens up Dearness Johnson, Chase Edmonds. I don't believe is going to play. We got a bunch of that news in, so I want to go through. I like taking an aggregate of like the blitz projections and our RotoGrinders gridiron IQ projections, just so we could start kind of running lineups, seeing what they look like, right? So I'm gonna run this. I'm gonna run 100 lineups. We got how many games on the slate? We got enough for 5% per quarterback, and let's see what these game stacks kind of look like, right? We're trying to target games primarily. And see what the projection looks like, and especially versus the ownership. We got some ownership now also, so we got this. So you could do this in Lineup HQ. It's called the custom projections modal. That's what they call it in the web development space, the modal. And you could upload any source you want. You could weight them and create a projection set with them combined. So that's what I did. I took half of the blitz and half of the gridiron IQ projections, and I'm going to use that as my projections, because the blitz has Dearness Johnson with the nutso projection, which I mean maybe is warranted. So we just take a look now at the aggregate projections, and I like looking at RGV, which is essentially which is salary adjusted plus minus. So like it gives you a basis of like if you don't play this player, this is how many points you're giving up by not playing them in comparison to other players. You could kind of think of it this way. So it's not, oh, you're giving up 6 points by not playing Dak. Yeah, but if you play Josh Allen, you make that up, right? So it's not just like, if you don't play that guy, you're dead. But we see in the running back position, Dearness Johnson, like Najee Harris at 7,900 against the Lions. Connor doesn't rate out as much against the Panthers, but probably popular in cash games. I mean, I would assume based on what I'm seeing here that, a cash game build is, Dearness, Harris, and Connor, and just don't worry about it. Like, I think a lot more running backs this week are viable. I think 3 running back builds may be more worthwhile than 4 wide receiver builds. But we'll take a look. We'll take a look. See, I got the build rules up. Make sure I got everything clear. How many game slate is this? This is an 11 game slate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So 22 teams. So that's like 4%. 4% per quarterback. Is that good enough? 4 times 20, 22. 5 times 22. What do we do? 4? Good enough. Whatever. 49.5. Whatever. So we're just running 100 lineups. I want to see like the top projected like stacks, game stack. The quarterback with two teammates. Doesn't have to be receivers. Could be a running back. and a opponent on the other side, just to see what games project, what teams and games have the most best projected players together. We can do that by just going through the games, right? You get a sense of that by just like, oh, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and just basically seeing how many players are kind of like above salary adjusted plus minus, right? So you see Freiermuth, Smith, Johnson, Harris. So I'm assuming based on this, we're going to get a bunch of Ben Roethlisberger, right? Because Ben plus Najee plus Deontay, and with DeAndre Swift as a run back. Like you could tell just from the values here, right? So this is the reason why a lot of times I don't even have to do this, because I could just look through it. Like Tampa Bay, Washington. It's like Godwin, Fournette, Evans, McLaurin. We'll get some of this, maybe not as much as you think. We take a look at the Cleveland game, right? It's not much of anything else other than Dearness Johnson, but we'll probably still get some Baker Mayfield, Johnson, Landry type of lineups. Is there anyone in New England worth a crap? Jacoby Myers, I guess, at 4,800. He never scores a touchdown. Doesn't matter. I have no idea, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to run 100 lineups, 4% per quarterback, just so I get all the quarterbacks, and we could look through it. I'll go in the YouTube chat. Con Campbell, if you could still play the lower stakes cash games on DK, would you play? Yes. I would. I do not. Lower stakes cash games, I if you listen to the latest Theory of DFS podcast, like last NFL slate, I did not play cash games on DraftKings. I did on FanDuel. The amount of volume that I play, it's getting to the point where I'm not even sure if it's worth. If it's worth the swings. I think at the end of the year I come out ahead, but like for like a 2% ROI, is it? It's not. Let me tell you, it's not fun. Going up or down 10 grand, per week in NFL, right? If you have you're winning cash games, it's like, oh, you made $6,000-7,000. You lose $8,000. Like, and it's always on a Tubi. It's like it's not something that's like, oh, I majorly screwed up. Or it's like, no, it's like everyone's making Tubi twos type of thing. So the amount of volume that you need, especially on DraftKings where you can't play the lower stakes, you got to play $5 and up. I'm not sure if it's worth the risk. That I'd rather up my volume a little bit in GPPs, and then I could ride that. I have no swings in GPPs. I never mind. I know how that is. It's just the cash games I have to sweat a Tubi for $10,000, $12,000. Just it's not fun. It's not fun. And at the end of the year, it's like, wow, all of that, and I made like $8,000 or something. Like you get like, and it's like, was it worth that up and down? So whatever. But if you could play low stakes, yeah, I would, because the ROI at lower stakes typically is going to be higher. Like when I played low stakes on DraftKings, when I was able to, so that was middle of 2019 and before. Like my ROI was like 10, 12, 15%, depending. I don't mind that. But I mean, how much volume can you get in $1 and $2 contests? $500 worth of volume, right? Maybe $800 worth of volume, but you're making 10 to 15% if you're good. So it's like, okay, if you're at that bankroll level, then absolutely, I would do that also. If you have a $10,000, $20,000 bankroll, and you're going to play 5% in cash games of that. So if you have a $10,000 bankroll, you're paying $500 on a slate. And as you move up, your bankroll grows, that 5% becomes bigger amount of raw money. I think it's worthwhile. And you're playing just exclusively low stakes, $1, $2 contests. You're not entering $5 contests. You're $51 head-to-heads, $52 head-to-heads. You're playing the 3-mans down there. You're playing, you're waiting till the half an hour before lock, and you're just like the $1 and $2, 11-man, 23-man double ups and DraftKings. You're entering them all until it stops you. So you've been entering too many at this limit, and once you get up to there, like I absolutely think that's perfectly fine, right? But once you step up to the big leagues, the ROI is just go down, and it could still be positive. It still may not be worth it. From a swing perspective, that's a better way to put it. It's not the raw money. Like if you're putting in $10,000 of volume and let's say you have a 2% ROI, okay, So $10,000, 2% is $200, right? But if you're playing double ups, especially, like you're either going to win them all or lose them all, right? Right. Obviously, in head to head, you know, you're not going to win them all, lose them all. But if you put in if you're putting in $10,000 in volume for an expected return on average of $200 per slate, because you're going to go up, you're going to win, you're going to lose, you're going to win, you're going to lose, and your win rate's going to be like 57% or something. $200 a slate, up and down, like by the end of the year, you're like, okay, that accounted for like, for what? Not that much, right? Because it's not going to be straight 2%. It could be 1%. It could be minus 1% at times. So you're going to be going up and down and up and down and up and down, all this volatility. And then at the end of the year, it's like as you bink 1 or 2 GPPs, and that cash volume, that cash return at the end, like almost makes up for there's nothing. It's barely anything of what your return was. It just makes your line a little bit less swingy. But in cash games, especially in NFL, you're playing once a week. So it's like, okay, I win big, lose big, win big, lose big, win big, win. Then at the end of the year, it's like I'm up $2,800 in cash games. It's like, what is it worth? I don't know. I don't know if it is. At that level, that's the key. At that level, if you're playing on a $5,000 bankroll, $2,000 bankroll, play the $1, $2 contests. That's perfectly fine. Smooth Jimmy Apollo, probably a stupid question. Whenever anyone starts off with probably a stupid question, it probably is. When you're looking at how owned a player should be, are you seeing how often he shows up when running lineups? Or are you just getting an estimate by 3+7 compared to ceiling? Yeah, I don't really make the ceiling combination. It's more how owned he should be in the lineup construction. So yeah, by running lineups, more likely than not. Let's see. Jacob Calloway says Blender's so rich he could pass up on 2% ROI. Well, I'm passing up on 2% ROI for the sake of my sanity. How much is my sanity worth? Going into a Sunday slate like this NFL Sunday, if I don't play cash games, I don't have to sweat a 2v2. Like there are cash game constructions where you're looking at, and like the difference is 51-49, 52-48 at best. Like I could play this lineup or that lineup or this lineup, and I know I'm going to see all three. I know I'm going to see all three in my double ups and my head that's whatever. It's like one of these three, and it's a 2v2. It's a 3v3. Do I pay up here? Do I pay down there? Do I pay this defense or that defense and this tight end or that tight end? And you're like whatever that decision is, which is very marginal, is going to be the difference of like 5 figures up or down. But when I don't play cash games, I don't even care about the 2v. I don't care about having to make that decision. Now, what you could do to avoid making that decision, just always play the top lineup in your projections and just don't think about it. And then just don't even think about the swings until the end of the season. Just go up and down and don't worry about it. That's a way to handle it. But if you're going to try to make decisions between those two, it's like you're going to get an ulcer. Going, this 2v2 is going to be decide the difference of $10,000 for me today. Right. And I look at the 2v2 and I go, this one or that one. And I'm like, they both are fine. Like they're both like, you might as well flip a coin. So now I'm flipping a coin for $10,000. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Oh, let's see. Edward Brown says, what is your wife going to do for fun on your WrestleMania trip? Go to WrestleMania. My wife actually likes wrestling. We went up to Indianapolis. We saw AEW Dynamite. She had a blast. Right? We went to WWE Raw on Monday, and that was boring as hell. Go up to AEW and chanting and whatever, and she's screaming about whatever, talking to people next door. She doesn't know she doesn't know the storylines as much. But as long as people are chanting and hooting and hollering, she's having a good time at it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, so let's go through this. Yeah, we're getting Dearness Johnson in 100% of lineups. We're getting Najee Harris in 99% of lineups. I think we're going to be playing them. Getting Michael Gallup is back. Oh, I see that in Michael Gallup is back. He's probably cheap. That's why he's showing up much, right? 4,000. Okie doke. I'm just taking a look. What do we got here? Okay, we're getting a lot of Dak Prescott, obviously. Okay, so we'll go to the quarterback position over here. See, we got all the quarterbacks. So I'm showing you a way to research a slate. That's what I'm doing here on Friday. When people say, "Oh, who do I play? What do I do?" It's like, no, I'm running lineups. What do these projected lineups look like? Because you're probably stacking games. You're probably looking at stuff like that. So what does it look like? What are the games that project well, that piece together in one lineup? What's the projection and what's the ownership? I mean, once you start simplifying DFS, you typically make more money, right? You typically become profitable. So we're going to look at some of these DAC lineups, like DAC lineups. So we're getting, DAC plus Gallup plus Cooper and Kyle Pitts. Right, we're getting some Kyle Pitts. We're getting Cordell Patterson as a run back. But it's mostly Gallup and Cooper. I don't see that much, up here. We got Dalton Schultz. Okay, Prescott, Gallup, Schultz with Kyle Pitts, double tight end. Okay, Hayden Hurst, I guess. I mean, a punt. Okay, so 153, 156 ownership. Okay. So 153 is the top projection. Taysom Hill, 128. So like these lineups are, I don't know why are we projecting Taysom Hill? I don't know. I guess we are projecting Taysom Hill to some PJ. Yeah. I think the Blitz has like a split on who, we don't know who's going to start, right? Just like with Russ Wilson, is Geno Smith going to start? So yeah, we don't have him like projected for anything. So we came to like Trevor Siemian. These lineups are going to project low just because we have them like split out. So let's go to Ryan Tannehill. 139 for Ryan Tannehill against the Saints. Tannehill, Jones, Ferkser. Tannehill, Jones, Ferkser. Tannehill, Jones, Brown. Brown 7,800. So yeah, that's driving it down with Troutman as a run back. But look at the projection difference between Ryan Tannehill and Dak Prescott. So these Tannehill lineups are 139. Prescott lineups are 153. So you give them like 14 points in projection. But you're also getting ownership because look, these Dak lineups, 156 in ownership. These Tannehill lineups are 114. But you're giving up 14 points in projection to get this ownership. If you go with the stack, is it worth it? Well, that's it's up to you to decide. Is 14 points worth dropping that ownership? Kyler Murray, if he plays, 144. Okay, that's doable. The DAC lineups are 153, so there's 9-point difference. And you're getting Murray with Connor, obviously, a bunch. PJ Walker, is he project? Okay, PJ Walker, Terrence Marshall, DJ Moore, 144. Only 124 ownership. This isn't that bad. You're dropping about 9 points from the DAC lineups. Mike White, 144, with Michael Carter and Corey Davis. And Cole Beasley is the run back. Jared Goff, 145. Obviously, Najee is the right. So you're doing Goff, Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Najee Harris is the run back. Jalen Hurts, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert, with a Jerry Jeudy run back. You got Quez Watkins in here. You know how great this is. Russell Wilson, assuming he plays, 146. So with Metcalf and Everett. Metcalf 6,800. That's a pretty good price if Wilson starts. I mean, for his ceiling. Let's see if Rodgers starts. Like, we don't even know this stuff. Is Rodgers going to start? Obviously, Adams projects well. Rodgers, Adams, Jones, with Gerald Everett, I guess. Just Tyler Lockett down here. Okay, 146. That isn't horrible. Taylor Heineke, 147. Heineke, De'Ami Brown, and Logan Thomas with Chris Godwin. Okay, so this is the Tampa Bay game. So Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, Cameron Brake, assuming that Gronk isn't going to play. You run that back with probably a cheap receiver. Like Terry McLaurin doesn't project that well, right? You're getting Adam Humphries in these types of lineups. Teddy Bridgewater, 147. Bridgewater, Judy Fant, assuming he plays. I think he's fine, right? Off the COVID list. Then you got Dallas Goedert in those lineups. Dallas Goedert, Quez Watkins, I guess. Josh Allen. Let's see. What did Josh Allen lineups look like? 148. Beasley and Diggs. Ryan Griffin is the run back. The Buffalo, maybe you don't even bother running the back. Corey Davis, maybe. He's back. 4,900. Maybe he's worthwhile. Kirk Cousins. 148. Cousins, Osborne, Conklin. That doesn't seem like the best stack. Right? Because you're just basically trying to jam in Najee and Devontae Adams into this lineup. Zeke. Dalvin. Okay, you get Dalvin Cook in this one with Osborne. You don't get, in these, the top, the four that we made, you don't get Thielen or Jefferson or anyone like that. Baker Mayfield. 148, but this is primarily driven by Dearness Johnson. So it's Mayfield, Johnson, Landry with Jacoby Myers, like we said before. Trevor Lawrence, 148. So we're moving up. Lawrence, Chenault, Arnold with Michael Pittman, run back. Justin Herbert, 148, almost 149 against Minnesota. But you're using like Osborne as the run back in this. Osborne, 3,400, so some cheap receiver. Mac Jones. So it's a similar that basically Mac Jones comes up in decent lineups primarily because the run back is Dearness Johnson, who has like the highest projection comparable to their salary. Ben Roethlisberger, because Najee Harris projects well. So you get Ben, Najee, Deontay with Amon-Ra St. Brown or Swift. I'm assuming we'll see one of these with CS Swift down here. You get some Carson Wentz, Taylor Pittman with Dan Arnold, 150. Very high ownership. Right, Pittman, 20%. Okay, that's because we're projecting Pittman for 20% ownership. And then Matt Ryan. It's on the other side of the Cowboys, right? So, like, you're going to get Ryan Gage Pitts with Michael Gallup run back. And probably some of these will be Cooper or Elliott. But most of them are Gallup. This is the way to go through and see. It's like, which games, which teams are projecting well together, right? So you don't have to piece together like, I want to play this guy and then that guy. So what teams project well together? So maybe this Atlanta-Dallas game. All right, so where did both quarterbacks show up the highest? Atlanta, Dallas. Like Indianapolis, Jacksonville, even Trevor Lawrence comes up a bunch. More on the Chargers side of the Eagles. That's the Minnesota game. Who are the Eagles playing again? Denver. Yeah, these Allen stacks aren't as appealing. I'll probably play. So we could do this. So let's say it's like stuff like Josh Allen and Tom Brady, where maybe you don't want to stack the other side of the game. So you could run these lineups and just not have like, well, I don't want to stack with the opposite side. I don't want to have a run back. And then I don't want a running back. I just want the wide receiver tight end. Right. So this is like a Josh Allen double stack, right? That type. So like these Ben lineups, for instance, we had those Ben Roethlisberger lineups, but they had a running back because it was Najee in there. Now, if you do a double stack without Najee, now it's going to be Ben Roethlisberger, Deontay Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth without Najee Harris, as you set it up with just wide receivers and tight ends. Is that a better lineup? Who knows? Well, who gets to fit in the other spots in your lineup? Obviously, the Najee projection is good, so you're going to be sacrificing some projection, but also you're going to be getting ownership by doing that also. So we'll run 100 lineups like this. You could run 100 lineups and maybe get rid of it. You don't necessarily need to see every quarterback. Maybe you just want to see the top 10, right? By capping it at 10. So you're going to get 10% at max of a quarterback, which is the head of a stack. And you're going to get pretty much the top 10. Right? So any quarterback that doesn't show up wouldn't be in the top 10 projected stacks. Because there's no run back. So we don't have to worry about, what game it is. So I'm going to run 100. So this will make someone like Josh Allen probably show up a little bit more. Or Tom Brady a little bit more. When the other side of the game doesn't project as well. March Mimic, once you run your Friday lineup to see what seems to project best, what's your process for deciding who's in your player pool? Ownership. That's it. It depends. It also depends on the contest that you play. The larger the field of contest, probably the larger your player. But the more willing you are. See, this is the people take the wrong information out. The larger the field you're playing, the more willing that you would be that you're willing to sacrifice projection for ownership. Okay. Now understand the difference between me saying that and saying that you should have a larger player pool. The mentality you should be thinking of as the field size of your contest gets larger is I'm going to be more willing to sacrifice projection for ownership. Now, obviously, if you're going to be if you're willing to sacrifice projection, that means there's more players available for you to play, right? By proxy. If you're not willing to sacrifice projection, you're not going to play a guy that doesn't project. You're going to have a much more condensed player pool. The more willing you are to sacrifice projection, that means it opens the door up to everything. Like we take a look. For instance, let's just take a look at the wide receiver position in general. If you're playing small field contests, like you're going to be focused on the top of this range, right? But let's say we scroll down, right? We have RG. I got it sorted by RGB here, and you're like, Devonta Smith at 5,900, right? Doesn't project as well as other receivers in that range. Tim Patrick, Tajay Sharp, Jamal Agnew, MVS, AJ Green. Like, in comparison to the ones that are up here, they don't project as well, but they're also going to be lower owned. But if I'm playing smaller field stuff, if I'm playing a 500 entry contest, why would I be willing to sacrifice 2 or 3 points just to play Quez Watkins? When I could win with a little bit higher ownership and play Cole Beasley. That's projected, 4 more raw points better. And I'm not the ownership, I don't have to care as much about. So when you're playing smaller contests, your player pool is going to probably be smaller. Not because you want to focus in on a core. It's just that you don't have to, you're not going to be as willing to sacrifice projection for ownership. You're playing the Millie. You don't mind sacrificing. You could play lineups that are 25 points lower projected if you get the requisite ownership with it. Because the reward for those lineups is first place is $1 million. So you don't mind sacrificing the projection as much. I mean, to the point of, you don't do it to the point of stupidity. You don't play a lineup that's 100 points lower projected. They'll almost never get there. So that's the reason why the player pool size that you choose would be different. It's not me going, I'm playing small field contests. I'm going to have a player pool of 200 players. I mean, I could have a player pool of 200 players, but it's very unlikely that the guy at the bottom of the player pool that projects 5 points lower than some other guy is ever going to make into my lineups for playing small field contests or even mid-sized field contests. The large stuff probably have a bigger player pool. It has nothing to do with the amount of lineups you have either. That's diversification. We're not even talking about that. So being that like on Sunday, I'm primarily playing contests. The largest contest I'm playing has like 5,000 entries, like the $100 spy, single entry spy, but I'm playing a lot of the double spy, which is like, I think 800 entries. And yeah, I may play like 3 entries into the Wildcat. And I think that's like 4,500 entries or something like that. So how much projection am I willing to sacrifice? So some of the lower projected guys, I'd only be playing in stacks. So looking down here, it's like, would I have Marquez Valdez-Scantling in my pool? As a one-off, no. But if I'm playing Green Bay stacks, if I'm playing Seattle stacks, I would include them in my pool. I organize stuff in NFL by game, by team, not by individual players. Individual one-offs have to be high projected. So if I'm going to play, if I'm going to play the Dallas stack, for instance, right? Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. Like I'm gonna include Dalton Schultz in my pool. Like, is he gonna show up in lineups? I don't know. But I'm going to include everyone that I can. CeeDee Lamb. Well, CeeDee Lamb doesn't project as well as Amari Cooper, for $800 more. But I'm playing a bunch of Dallas. So he's going to be in my pool. Atlanta on the other side of the game. Russell Gage will probably be in my pool if I'm playing that game. If I'm not playing that game, Russell Gage you may not use Russell Gage at all. May not be a need to. If you're playing a bunch of Josh Allen stacks, and you're like, well, Emmanuel Sanders projects poorly. Dawson Knox projects poorly. I like Beasley and Diggs, right? And possibly if Zach Moss is out, Devin Singletary. Well, I mean, you could choose to just make all your Allen stacks Beasley and Diggs. But what happens if I'm making 10 of them? And I don't want Beasley and Diggs to be all of them. I want it to be Beasley plus Sanders. I want to be Diggs plus Knox also. So even though they don't project as well, I'm gonna leave them in my pool. But using Dawson Knox and Emmanuel Sanders as one-offs is probably not going to happen because their salary adjusted plus minus is low. So they don't help the lineup unless Josh Allen is in the lineup, unless the Jets are in the lineup. Right? I need the effective correlation for there to be a reason to play someone that's 2.5 points lower projected than other players. Well, I'm playing Josh Allen. So that would be the reason. So Emmanuel Sanders would make my player. But someone else that is at 5,700 wide receiver, like Devonta Smith was in that range. Well, if I'm not playing Hurts and I'm not playing Bridgewater, so I'm not playing any of that team or game stack, then Devonta Smith will not even be in my player. He would be a one-off, and he's a poorly projected one. For the contests that I play, like I said, 5,000 entries or less, 1,000 entries or less. You're playing a contest with 200,000 entries. Devonta Smith won it. You may be okay sacrificing that projection for that one-off. So it's not about a player pool size. It's like what players should be available. What players will make up lineups that give you the right amount of projection and ownership for the contest that you're playing. I could leave everyone in. This all tab says 558 players. Doesn't mean any of the players on the bottom. I could leave them all in. And how much? I left Malik Turner or Tyron Johnson is still my player. Yeah, but he projects for 0.14. He's not going to show up in any lineups, right? I'm gonna leave Desmond Pathman in my player pool. You could. When are you ever going to get a lineup with a guy that's 3,000 that projects for half a point? You're not. So is there a need to even X these guys out? Probably not. I try to keep things safe by adding people to the pool. I exclude everyone, and I just add back the people that I want to be in my pool. But you don't have to do that. I only do that for error checking. Right? If you're building a whole bunch of lineups and you're not aware that, there's some dude, like the 3K dude that projects for 5 points that shows up in like 3% of your lineups, and you don't realize it. And that may be fine, but sometimes it's like, no, I'll just include everyone that I want. And then now I know we're going to make up all these lineups with these people. Michael Dompe, a tangential question. The slate only has 3,000 entries so far and a possible field of over 26,000. When do the other 23,000 entrants show up between now and Sunday morning? Oh, in the slant. Oh, and not between now and then? It's not going to overlay. What he's asking, are enough people out of bankroll that it may not fill? No, it'll fill. You don't want it to fill, right? Don't you now? You'd rather it be overlay. We're early. It's only Friday morning. Okay, let me go to, what we did is we ran the stacks, wide receiver, tight end, no run back. Okay. Obviously, when we do that, what's the top projected lineup? Josh Allen. right? Yeah, the one when we tried the 3+1s, Josh Allen stacks were okay, but not all the way there because basically we don't have to deal with, Jamison Crowder or Corey Davis or Michael Carter or some garbage jet. So as far as a top 10 stack, let me go to, still get tons of Dearness Johnson, Najee Harris. You're pretty much going to play them on Sunday. So we get some Carson Wentz. So we have Carson Wentz at 148, Tom Brady at 148, Bridgewater at 149, with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, with no Philadelphia players. Herbert, 149, because you don't have to take on the Minnesota guy with it. Josh Allen, 149. Trevor Lawrence, 150. You don't have to bring back anyone for the Colts. Matt Ryan, 151. With Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts. That's probably not a lineup I would play. And Dak Prescott, 155. Basically, Dak Prescott rules all. This seems like a pretty chalky lineup, right? Prescott, Gallup, Cooper. Then you jam in Harris, Johnson, Adams, James Conner. You play some, punt Dan Arnold. But this would be the type of lineup you'd play in a really small field contest. From an ownership perspective, I would guess. I'm assuming Gallup's ownership comes up. Right. We have him at 3%. If he's going to play in these 4K, I'm assuming that number is going to come up. He's not going to be that low owned. I'm assuming. I mean, look at this lineup. I mean, look, the same type of lineup, but just with a slight tweak, right? So instead of playing James Conner, you're playing Leonard Fournette. He's going to be a little bit lower owned probably than James Conner. And he paired Dearness Johnson with the Browns defense. So these are, I mean, to me, these look like small field. Because look at the ownership. The ownership's fairly high. 159. But if you wanted to play this in the juke or something, the double spy, right? That's what these types of lineups are, towards the top. That's why you look at lineups. You take out Devontae Adams from this lineup, the projection goes down, the ownership goes down. And as your contests get bigger, the more projection you're willing to sacrifice, and as long as you're getting requisite ownership with it. Don't sacrifice projection and get nothing for it. Get something. Either you're getting ownership, you're getting, leverage, lower ownership, or you're getting correlation. You're getting something. So many people build lineups and they don't realize what they're doing. Especially if you're hand building, you're not even paying attention to what these numbers are. I'm going to play this guy instead of that guy in this lineup. It's like, okay, how much projection are you sacrificing? I don't know. How much ownership are you getting? I have no idea. So then how do you know that it's a good thing to do? Maybe you find out that you're actually sacrificing projection and actually getting higher ownership. Right? You're going to say a chalkier guy that you don't realize is actually lower projected than the guy that you already had in. That's why you could use a tool like Lineup HQ to just run them like this and use whatever projection set you want. If you can change the numbers. Well, I don't think this guy's going to be this owned, so change the number. I don't think Gallup's going to be 3% owned, so put a number. But whatever numbers you want, as long as you're putting those two numbers to a player. We have Dak Prescott at 25.65 at 11.4. So like, I think he's going to be 9% owned, and I want to project him for 23 points. Okay. Is there a reason you want to do that? No. Who cares? There doesn't have to be a reason. Just get the players into these numbers. Whatever way you have to. Because once you get the players into those numbers, now it's just a game of we need 9 slots and 9 of these pairing numbers, and you just build them better than your opponents. And you just wait for the money to show up. That's it. Welcome to DFS. That's DFS. March Mimic says, thanks, Blender. That's essentially what I'm doing. I'm typically excluding players unless they project as a one-off or if a run back projects well. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. They'll show up naturally. Like, you don't even have to Like you saw before, like you could leave them all in if you want. Right? If you're choosing this and I'm playing this stack and that stack, like if you're not playing a stack and the guy doesn't project well, you're most likely not going to get them as a one-off at all anyway. Even if you're playing 150 lineups. Unless you're purposely manually saying, I'd like to have 5% of this guy. So you don't have to exclude everyone and include the back. You don't have to do any of that. I do it at the sake of error checking. If I'm building, especially when I'm building smaller field lineups. The larger field stuff, I'll get rid of I'll get rid of 400 people just because, so I don't even have to scroll. So I don't have to worry. Do I have to worry about the fourth running back on some team that projects for 1 point? Like, no, just X them and just X it. I don't even want to have to see that. They're not going to show up in lineups no matter if I X them out or not. But if I X them out, at least I don't have to look at them. Jacob Calloway has a good point. Remember, people, someone could be 5% owned, but be 95% owned in a specific archetype. Correct. Taking Gallup at 5% in your Dallas stack isn't actually leverage because 95% of the Gallup lineups will have Dak. That's absolutely correct. That's why when judging lineups with stacks, I consider the whole stack to be one ownership. All right, so like 3% that like this isn't like what Jacob is saying is like this lineup up here is like, well, I got a 3% owned player in my lineup, so I'm good. I got enough leverage. Well, Gallup at 3% would be much better in this lineup archetype if it wasn't a Dak line. If this was a Josh Allen stack, like let's take a look. Can we find? Let's see. Let's see. I don't know if we got any Cooper. Do we got any Gallup in this? Here we go. So here's this Josh Allen line. And let's just say Gallup is 3% owned. I don't think he's going to be 3% owned. Michael Gallup at 3% owned in this lineup is much different than Michael Gallup being 3% owned in a Dak lineup. Right? Because Gallup ownership, Gallup is going to be more likely in Dak lineups. But it's going to be less likely in Josh Allen lineups. So just like with Beasley, if you want to say the same thing with Beasley or Diggs. Oh, I'm getting Diggs at 8%. Yeah, but I mean, he's going to be a lot of that 8% is going to be Josh Allen lineups. So it's really like you're not multiplying. This is the main reason why like ownership sum and ownership product aren't like exactly correct things to use. They're blunt tools. They're better than nothing. You can't say, well, 12% of lineups have Josh Allen and 13% of lineups have Cole Beasley and 8% of lineups have Stephon Diggs, as if they're independent of one another. So it's like, so how many lineups would have all three in them? Well, most of them, right? Because it's Josh Allen, people stack. There aren't going to be that many Josh Allen naked lineups. So a lot of this 12% ownership, probably 10% of this 12% ownership is Cole Beasley already. And 6% of this 12% is probably Stephon Diggs already. So let's 12, 13, and 8. In total is about 10. 10% of lineups will have something like that as an archetype. Especially with Dearness Johnson and Najee Harris, right? So that's an archetype. Now you have to get different elsewhere. And that's where Michael Gallup comes in. If he was 3%. But in the Dak lineups, we go to the Dak lineups where there you go. Michael Gallup isn't that. Like you actually have no like really low-owned guys that's listed here, at least. If we scroll down, let's see. Do we got any? Here you go. Here's a Dak lineup. Dak, Gallup, Cooper. But now DJ Moore's here. It's like, okay, there you go. So you don't care about the Gallup ownership. You're like, okay, well, I already got Johnson. I already got Harris. Chalk City. Already got Adams. Chalk City. Arnold. Chalk City. I got Chalk City in my line. And I got a popular stack. Even though, well, Michael Gallup's 3% owned. Yeah, but like 3% of the lineups have all of these guys. Except for DJ Moore. right? So this, yeah, when taking into account the entire correlation of your lineup, like really the differentiator is DJ Moore, not Michael Gallup in this lineup. Here's a Dak lineup with Beasley in it. Like Beasley at 13% owned is more valuable in this lineup as a one-off because he's most likely not going to be as much of a one-off, and he's going to be more in Josh Allen lineups. You have to understand how the correlation affects ownership. Having a 1% owned guy in a popular stack doesn't, I mean, only 1% of people have, but 1% of people have the same quarterback and the other wide receiver that you already have also. That makes up most of that 1%. It's not these random one-off lineups. It's probably going to be because the quarterback happens to be in those lineups. DJA Dog, is there an easy setting to force run back so you have to do it in groups? No, you just do it in the stack settings. Right? Primary game stacks here. Team 1, team 2. Right? So this is quarterback with 2 wide receivers or tight ends. Team 2, whatever you want to use. You want to use running back, wide receiver, tight end 1. If you just want to use wide receivers and tight ends and no running backs, there's a 1. If you want to run it back with 2 people, you could do 2. Right? Yeah, the stack, primary game stacks, game stack settings. And then you can choose the teams. Maybe like you go here, like maybe you set something up like this. So you set 2 types of game stacks. So here's one. The top one is with a run back. The bottom one is not with a run back. Let's say you want, a split of 50-50. But it's like, but you go here and you go, who do I not want? I don't want the Buffalo to have a run back, right? So you just uncheck Buffalo, right? Who do I not want to have a run? Like, the Tampa Bay. Maybe I don't want Tom Brady to have run backs. So there, uncheck that. Only the teams that you want to have here. That's what you do. And it automatically does it. So you don't need to use groups. Anything else in the YouTube chat? Normally I talk about MMA, but I literally have no idea. I haven't even put in the odds. I have no idea. The weigh-ins are coming. I think I've been looking at Twitter. I've been keeping my eye on Twitter. It seems like two or three fighters have already not made weight. So who knows? Are we going to even have 11 fights? Is there a point anymore? Melvin Pitts. Hey, Blender, can't you use the other stack tool to find the stack ownership total? If so, can you give an example? Yeah, I guess you could use what? The game stack finder? I never use this. I never use this tool. So I'm using the total ownership. I'm using the ownership sum anyway. I'm never playing just to be clear, I'm never playing lineups that are that high owned that I need to even calculate what the stack total ownership is anyway. Right? Like really, that's what it comes down to. Like it's almost, it doesn't end up, I don't end up needing to even know that information. Right? I take a look at that lineup with Dak, right? Like I'm not playing a lineup that's even has an ownership sum of this high anyway. So I don't have to look and go, oh, this isn't really leverage. Yeah, because I'm never playing lineups that project like this anyway. I'm not playing the really small field contests. I'm playing small to mid-sized field. So I'm rarely playing like 160 total, like in this line. I'm not playing these types of lineups. And I mean, it's a chalk and straw. I mean, it's Johnson, Harris, Connor, Adams lineups. It's very rare that I'm going to be playing those types of lineups. I'll be playing all these guys, but probably not all together. So once I start not playing Harris, Johnson, Adams, and Connor together, then obviously my total lineup ownership goes down. And then I don't have to necessarily concern myself with the stacked combined ownership. I'm good. I'm already good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point. Could I be a little bit more precise? Yes, but at the end of the day, conceptually, it doesn't matter anymore. Let's see. FanDuel has MMA now. Yes, FanDuel has always had MMA. Any place to find game lineups from previous contests? Yes, Results DB. It's on RotoGrinders. It's free. Just go to RotoGrinders site and go to rotogrinders.com/resultsdb. It's only for DraftKings though. You could look at any contest, and NFL, NBA, MLB, all the publicly posted GPPs and double ups or whatever. Yeah, we got all that information. Smooth Jimmy Apollo, Hangman winning on Saturday. Yes, he better. It's been it's a 2-year storyline. Michael Dampier, have you thought any more about the bizarre, relatively high ownership of Pittman 2 weeks ago and Brown last week? Any application of the current week? I don't know what we could learn for the current week. I assumed that Marquise Brown was much higher owned than expected because Lamar was higher owned than expected. Pittman was a decent cash play the week before and just got steamed up. People around the industry talked someone up, and they're a good projected play. It's just that in the span of like there's 5 guys in that range that project within a half a point of each other. So why should one guy be twice as owned as any of the other guys? What's that going to be this week? Who knows? I don't know. Like I said, I've been away for 3 days. I'm just looking at this. I'm pretty much just looking at the slate now. I have no idea. But it's quite possible that Dearness Johnson, if he's going to be 47% owned, he may be under owned. I think some people may go, like, can I find a way not to play? It'd be one of those things where it may be more beneficial to play more. I don't know. It's not basketball. Like in basketball, that type of play, you just lock button. Football, there are paths to failure in football. But a $4,700 guy that may be getting 80% of carries and 15 to 17% of targets. That most likely he will be in most, if not all, of my lineups. To find that production. If Dearness Johnson was 6,000, I wouldn't be talking that way. But at 4,700. But the thing is that in the Dearness Johnson lineups, maybe getting away from like a Devontae Adams would be better off. A Najee Harris. Like it's going to be a lot of these barbell type builds. People paying down, then people paying up. People are down at tight end, down at running back, up at wide receiver. Maybe going a little bit more balanced would give you a similarly projected lineup at much less ownership. Doesn't mean you avoid like the high price, but like you could just be a little bit more balanced. So it's not like you're like, I'm not going to play Johnson or Adams. I'm going to play everyone in the 5,500 to 6K range. I'm not saying that. It's quite possible to play Johnson and then you don't play anyone over 7,000. Or you try to find some cheap receivers, but I'm not a big fan of the cheap receiver, like one-off route. And stack, sure. Okay, let's see. Before I get out of here, Jacob Calloway, what's the optimal strategy for risk the board game? You should look that up on Google. There's stuff on there. I could tell you what. I mean, it'll take a while. I hope you know the basic strategy of risk. It's all about borders. Okay? Always about borders. Most people get risk wrong because they spread out their armies amongst all of their countries. And it's much better to keep all your armies concentrated on borders. Because you don't need nothing. You don't need if a land interior country. As long as you protect the borders, you can only leave one army. You don't need. I mean, I'm saying basic stuff. If you play risk, like you're probably looking at me going, "Who doesn't know this?" But I hope you do. If you're going for a tournament, I mean, I'm assuming everyone knows how to play risk well. But you could there's optimal. You could look it up. Risk is a very popular game. Been around for a while. Just Google the optimal risk strategies. And there's ton. It also depends on how you play, whether or not you claim your own land or it's done randomly. Depends on how many people are playing. It's like a 2 or 3 person game of risk is much different than like a seven person game of risk, because you can consolidate quicker with 2 to 3 players. Like 2 to 3 players, if your opponents make a mistake, it's humongous. A 7-player game, like a lot of times you can't capitalize on other people's mistakes as much because you're just not there to do it. You have to convince someone else to do it. You have to almost team up with someone else. Jacob's never played it before. So if you've never played it before, just learn at least learn the basic strategy so you don't look stupid. I've never played actual risk tournaments. I just played risk a lot when I was a kid. Chaos, so do you have a target minimum for allowing an running back to be in the quarterback stack? Should I default to not doing it and only allowing it in rare circumstances? No, I don't care about target minimums. I only care about projections. Dearness Johnson is 4,700. He could still get 20 carries, 2 touchdowns, and Baker Mayfield could throw for 300. I mean, like at his price, it's a price to projection. It has nothing to do with targets. Oh, Jacob's saying it's a 5 people home tournament, mostly drinking over a board game. Oh, okay. So you could crush it. I thought you were going to like an actual something type of organized, like not like an official thing, but I mean, like there are people that do in cities that do game nights. We're gonna have a risk tournament, but it's all people from like a gaming club. But yes. So Jacob, just make sure you keep your armies on the borders. You want to your goal is to take over a continent, secure its borders, and then you obviously get to cash in every turn for having a continent, right? And your goal is to ruin people's chances of that. So, for instance, a very common risk move, like if you have Africa, for instance, and you have the border secured in Africa, especially the boat one for South America. So you want to keep all your armies in wherever in the Western Sahara, where you could go over to South America, and you're gonna have like 20 armies there because you're protecting that border. And then when it's your turn, especially if the person that controls South America goes after you, make sure that the last move on your turn is taking all your armies, attacking across, assuming that he or she may not have as many armies there. They play poorly. Like if there's only one there, all you're doing is moving, and then you're taking control, and then you take your armies back into Africa, and you leave one there, so that when it's the person's turn, you can't get the extra armies for controlling the continent. So you're ruining that person's chances. I could talk about game strategy all day, right? This is what I like. That's why I play DFS. Right? This could be risk. It could be Clue. It could be anything. Monopoly. I like the strategy of games, and DFS provides that a bit. Not as much as like the board games, but whatever. So hit that like button on your way out the door. Hit your like button. We got some NFL stuff. We're seeing things going on. I got to make my MMA sheets. Hopefully, all the fights are on. If they cancel one, if it's only a 10-fight card, maybe I don't even play. But I'm done with the 9-fight ones. It's a 9-fight card. I'm who cares at that point? But let's see what these weigh-ins, what happens at these weigh-ins. We got Sunday NFL coming up, and then back to a normal schedule next week. Right? I took a couple of days off. You guys probably didn't miss me. I definitely didn't miss you. But we'll be back as normal, as I always am, Monday through Friday, answering your DFS strategy questions as always on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.